Hi everyone. I think let's make a start. We've got one or two latecomers, but let's kick off. Welcome. I have to say good morning to our colleagues in the US and Canada. Good afternoon to my colleagues in the UK, and good evening to Cheryl in South Africa. We're all in different time zones. So hi everyone. Great to see you. And I hope you're going to enjoy the session this afternoon. Just a few housekeeping arrangements. You will have been muted when you join, so unmute yourself when you speak and mute yourself again after that, because for so many participants, background noise can be distracting. Dogs barking, kids howling, or whatever the case may be, or parcels being delivered. So please just mute yourself after you've spoken. If you want to speak, if you click on the middle of your screen where it says participants, at the bottom middle of your screen, on the right, a list of participants will open up. And at the bottom right of that is an option to raise your hand or lower your hand. So if you want to speak, just use that. If that doesn't work, just wave at me and we'll pick you up. Chris and myself will pick you up. Just a reminder again, this session is going to be recorded and we'll share that with colleagues. So just so that you're aware of that. I'll try and keep ourselves on track with time, and Chris will be assisting me. Most of you probably know Chris. He's going to co-host with me and he'll introduce himself when we go round. So perhaps if we could just kick off with a quick round of introductions. If I start, Chris, if you can kick off, and then I'll follow as you appear on my screen. Just quickly, who you are, where you're from, just so we can all put a name to a face.
Right, happy to do that. I'm Chris Shelby. I am IMC's Executive Director, and IMC headquarters is located in Southern California, in a city called Rancho Cucamonga, about 75 miles east of Los Angeles. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Amelia?
Carrie.
Amelia?
Please, sorry, it's Carrie. Carrie Roseman from the city of Clay Center, Kansas.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. And we are a town of about 4,000 in north central Kansas.
Thanks, Carrie. Sharon? Or was it Sandra? No, Sharon. Hi, Sharon, you on mute. Just, there you go.
Hi, I'm Sharon Knight. I'm from Region 1, and I'm from a small town called Avon, New York, Western New York, not New York City, and we've got about 7,000 people in our community.
Oh, welcome. You?
Hello, everybody. My name is Hugh Peacock. I'm with Newbury Town Council. Newbury is a market town of about 35,000 population, about 50 miles west of London in the southeast of England.
Thanks, Hugh. George? George, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, hi. I'm George Hawthorne. I'm from Weston Bartonshire Council. Obviously, you can tell from my accent, in Scotland. We are a kind of small local authority with a population of about 90,000 residents. Thanks.
Thanks, George. Marjolein?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Marjolein Teunissen. I'm the clerk of the city of Molenlanden. It's in the Netherlands, and it's a city of around 45,000 people.
Well, Sandra?
Yep, I'm Sandra Dennis and I'm from Stabroek. It's a small town in Belgium near the harbor of Antwerp and near the border of the Netherlands. We have 20,000 inhabitants.
Welcome, Sandra. Clementine?
Hi, my name is Clementine Bonner Klein. I'm the clerk in Monterey, California. We're a couple hours south of San Francisco on the coast, and we have about 28,000 residents.
Thanks, Clementine. Cheryl? Cheryl, we can't hear. I see you've unmuted yourself, but we can't hear you. Sherelle, I'll come back to you. Try and sort that and I'll come back to you. Lance?
Hi everybody, I'm Lance Allen. I'm the Town Clerk of Trowbridge Town Council in England. We're about 100 miles west of London, twice as far as here in Newbury. Trowbridge is in the county of Wiltshire and we have a population of about 40,000.
Thanks, Lance. Anne?
Good morning. Well, afternoon for you. I'm Ann Eaker. I'm the City Clerk Treasurer for the City of St. Francis in Wisconsin. We are on Lake Michigan, just a suburb of the city of Milwaukee, and we have about 10,000 residents.
Thanks, Anne. Welcome. Chris? Chris, you muted. Just unmute yourself. There you go.
I'm sorry, I was hitting the space board there. Chris Johnson, the city clerk in Meridian, Idaho, which is about 120,000 and growing just outside Boise, Idaho.
Welcome, Chris. Arnoud?
Good evening, and I'm Nout van Gooi. I'm a city from the city of IJsselstein, which has 36,000 inhabitants, and it's in the center of the Netherlands.
Welcome, Arnoud. Marne?
Good afternoon. My name is Marty McGrath. I am the city clerk of Ferndale, Michigan. That's a small inner ring suburb of the city of Detroit. And our population is about 22,000 people.
Thanks, Marnie. Priya?
Yes, hello, I'm Priya Patel. I work for Richmond upon Thames Council, which is a London outer borough, with a population of 196,000.
Welcome. Nina?
Hi, I'm Nina. I work for the city of Norfolk. We have approximately 250,000 people here. We're about 4 hours south of Washington, D.C. and just a harbor town.
Welcome, Nina. Sherelle, going back to you. Let's see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sherelle Jansen van Rensburg. I'm from South Africa. I'm working in the Northwest Province, one of our 9 provinces in South Africa. I'm working at the city of Matlosana. I'm a performance management specialist there, working with strategic documents and then strategic planning.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thanks, Sherelle. I think we've had everyone on. George, I think we've had you on because I see your video is gone. So, but I think you've introduced yourself. So that's everyone so far. We've got 15 people participating. So we've still got a few latecomers to arrive. Just about the process, we've got approximately an hour. And if everyone contributes, that gives just over 2 minutes for each. The idea is to explore and experience and hear how you have managed to cope with all the challenges that you've had to face during this period of lockdown. I'm sure there were some issues and you may have had a way of dealing with it, which would be of interest to some of your colleagues. So I'm going to give everyone an opportunity, and at the end of that, we'll see whether there are some common areas of interest, and perhaps there might be interest in having a further session with breakout rooms, which we did with a previous group, which they found very interesting. So if I can ask, is there anyone that would like to kick us off and tell us a bit about the challenges that you faced in dealing with this? Either wave at me or put up your hand. Hugh, would you like to kick us off?
Someone has to start, Tom. Yeah, I mean, the challenges for us, we closed the town hall in the first lockdown here, which was about the middle of March. We got our telephone system in order so that all of our direct lines could be redirected to our mobile phones. So people calling from the outside, it wasn't apparent that we weren't in the town hall. It worked seamlessly for us. We had to upgrade some of our technology for some of our officers. We had to get a laptop for everybody, and we'd spent quite a bit of money on that. And some improvements to our servers. Some of our staff had to upgrade their Wi-Fi at home. We've been paying a working from home allowance. It's not a lot. The revenue commissioners here allow us to pay £6 per week. Yeah, £6 per week working from home allowance. Above that, it becomes a taxable matter, and it's hardly worth the bother of sorting it out with the revenue commissioners. So yeah, getting our phones and our technology into order, our laptops into order, was the biggest challenge for us. Going forward, we feel disjointed, and the lack of interaction, I think, is holding us back from progressing as we should. Sitting here at the screen all day can be a bit soul destroying compared to walking down the road to another authority and saying hello to colleagues in their offices. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, but we've managed to achieve our objectives more or less. So just to start the ball rolling.
Thanks, Hugh. Right, who would like to add? Marjolein.
Yes, we were fortunately used to working remotely because the town of Molenlanden doesn't have a town hall. So everybody with us was used of working at libraries or at home or wherever you can work. But the biggest difference for me was the emotional aspect, because we were not allowed to see each other anymore. We have like these meeting areas where colleagues could meet each other, and the meetings areas were closed. So it's all digital, all through Teams or Zoom. And then we miss the social contact between each other. So that's a big difference. And the other difference, I think, is in the, when the how do you say it? Arnoud, de gemeenteraad.
Yeah.
City Council.
Yes, thanks. The city council, when they are together, they also only have digital contact. So the quality of the discussions is less than when you meet each other in person. That's for me the two most difference from pre-corona until now.
Thanks, Marjolein. The next one, my apologies, Amelia Clay Center. Just repeat your name, please.
It's okay. Carrie with Clay Center. I forgot to say that I'm Region 7. Our business has really not changed a lot, surprisingly so. I think at first we locked our doors for probably 3 weeks or so, but we were here full time. And then one of the challenges was just getting council meetings set up on Zoom and trying to figure out the logistics of that. And then the state of Kansas has Spark money. And so we were, I'll say the county was awarded a sum of like $500,000. Actually, no, I'm gonna renege on that, $1.6 million. The city asked for only $80,000, and we had a difficult time in justifying that, but we're the biggest city within the county. So that has been a little bit of a struggle, but we've been able to do hands-free faucets and upgrade our technology and our audio and visual in the council chambers. And right now, we've gone back to locking City Hall because our numbers have significantly increased. And in fact, we have 2 staff members that work in the building that currently have it. So those have been our challenges.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kerry. Arno.
Good evening, thank you. For us, we actually have all the equipment for working remotely, and I was very proud to be able to work remotely for 1 day a week. But now I'm forced to work remotely for 5 days a week. And that's actually the biggest problem for everybody, not being able to choose. People miss the smell, people miss the sound. And in the beginning of the summer, we were actually almost back to business, and we were having our city council meetings at the city hall again, and then it really became noticeable that people were missing each other. Oh. Right now, the only thing we have to invest in is in voting systems that we have also, so we can work at home, but people miss each other. And like I said, like I already told you, it's the smell and the sound that they miss.
Yeah. Thanks, Arno. Marnie.
I would say for us, the biggest challenge, we closed our city hall in March, right after the presidential primary here in Michigan. And unfortunately, during that time, I caught COVID. So, so for me, after I got back on my feet, getting back into the swing of working from home or learning how to do it was difficult. But then we reopened to the public in July, and we had August and November elections as well. And in Michigan, all the elections are administered locally. So me and my staff had to be in the office every single day from, beginning of June till just a couple of weeks ago. So it's been difficult for me to get back into the swing of it. But, I find that, keeping myself organized has been a huge help. Missing that social interaction, it was strange to be at work and be interacting with so many people, during this period of pandemic, but then to also be able to see some of my coworkers was really great. So we now try to keep, we kind of do like a Zoom happy hour every week or so, just so that we're kind of interacting the way that we used to back in the day. Yeah. And that's been really helpful for us.
Well, we're certainly glad that you got over the COVID and you're healthy again.
Thank you.
Very pleased for you. Chris Johnson.
Good morning. We found out right away that we weren't equipped to do remote meetings for our city council. We are growing, so we have a lot of public hearings that have a lot of public involvement. Many people want to be there and discuss topics. So we introduced Zoom, and we had very, very tight controls over that. I had another staff member, myself, managing things behind the scenes to really control who could speak, who could be where, and we've slowly loosened that up. And we're actually planning to continue using Zoom. We used some CARES Act funding to put a Zoom integration in our council chambers, so we can integrate with YouTube, and we can actually have half of our council or more, remote participating in the meeting, and then also allow the public to comment during those periods of public comment through Zoom as well. So we found it to be very beneficial. We have more public involvement than we did pre-COVID, because people don't have to leave their home and worry about babysitters and come out for long evenings. So it makes for longer evenings for me, but it's beneficial to the public. That's pretty much what we've been doing.
Thanks, Chris. Sandra. Sandra, you just unmute yourself.
I forgot.
There you go.
I recognize the things they've been said already. The unprepared technically in the beginning of the lockdown was also with us. The well-being of the people as a very important thing, but also, and I haven't heard it till now, the daily contact also gives the way how organizing the work, the follow-up of the work, giving feedback to another on an informal way. And that was also something we had to look to how to do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandra. Priya.
Thank you. Yes, many of the things that have been said already resonate with me. We were quite lucky that we all had laptops, and so we were all set up for home working already. So the team, when we all had to leave the town hall and go home, we were all set up so that we were lucky in that respect. But here, as soon as we went into lockdown, all the schools closed. So that was quite difficult for a lot of us, because we then were juggling kind of children and home life, and then with quite a busy working life, trying to get all of our committees and decision-making processes online, and finding our way with that, and an expectation to do that quite quickly, and then with children in the house all at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was quite stressful. So I think those kind of early months of lockdown, I think, were quite stressful for all of us, in that way, kind of juggling family life with, you know, everything suddenly being at home, and trying to get the children to do schoolwork, as well as trying to manage quite a busy work life ourselves. But I think the other challenging thing in those early weeks and months was just constant stream of remote meetings, kind of back-to-back meetings, before we'd really found a balance. Just feeling exhausted by the end of the day, because the whole day was just full of remote meetings. And it's never quite the same. You miss as other people have said, you miss the human contact and seeing people. You just can't get that on screen. So all of those things. And I think, like some of the others have said, we've got now a weekly catch up and it's just social, where we kind of say all of that kind of chatter we would have had in the office is made up in that weekly slot, more or less, and we've got better at spacing out our meetings, and I think we're in a more balanced position now. But I think the early weeks and months were quite difficult for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thanks, Priya. George.
Yes, I think I agree with everything that's just been said there. We had lots of technical difficulties at the beginning. Our council actually decided not to have any meetings for the first 3 months of the lockdown,
really?
which had its own knock-on consequences for everyone. Once we got up and running with Zoom, though, we're now into a full programme, and it's been difficult. My staff are exhausted, because we're having to put, with 2 or 3 people per meeting now, as opposed to just the one clerk in every meeting. So that has become difficult. As a manager, I'm finding it difficult to keep team morale going. That's not so easy done on a screen as it is face to face, having team meetings and getting everybody going. So I found that personally quite difficult. Other things which have come up, we've actually had the difficulty of some of our chairmen aren't very skilled at managing the Zoom meetings, and we've actually had to revert to a kind of hybrid forum where we're supporting our chairman in the same room, socially distancing, of course, but we've had to make those special arrangements. And one of our members, who's particularly a bit of a Luddite, doesn't wish to use a screen at all, so he actually dials in. So we've got the issue of him dialing into meetings and attempting to chair a meeting as well on the telephone. And trying to support him as well. So yeah, I can see some of you shaking your heads. that is the reality of governance, of democracy. You can't pick your elected members, as you know. They are voted in by the public, and you have to support them as best you can. And you can't be judgmental about it either, because most of them are quite elderly. And I'm not saying elderly is a reason or a barrier, just that those particular individuals choose not to want to use the technology that we've got available to us. So it's been very challenging, I have to say. I don't mind working in this loft, which I do most days, but it is actually nice to get into the office and to support a chairman and do the job in the office environment as well. So that's a bit of a relief, I think.
Bit of human contact.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Mina, are you gonna share something with us?
Yes, and I do have similar experiences with everyone, but I wanted to touch on something that I didn't really hear. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In this city, we have 7,000 employees. a lot of them haven't been back to the office since March. I've been here every day. A big problem that we've had in the city of Norfolk is that we quickly found that all the various departments and moving parts in our administration had technological solutions, various technological solutions that were often duplicative. Like one department was using Adobe, another department was using DigiSign, like for electronic document signing, or half of the city was using Zoom and the other half was using WebEx. So from my standpoint, my biggest challenge has been the lack of like RIM management, like a bridge between the clerk's office and IT, which could encompass information management as opposed to just deployment individually, hodgepodge per department. So we've been kind of trying to streamline our services and get on the same page with everyone. But we also, I mean, I can't imagine the chairman not being able to use the Zoom. That's what freaked me out. But we do also have one elderly member, and he calls in to the meetings as well. And it is a huge, nobody can hear him. And it's frustrating. He's got a big chunk of the city, and our biggest challenge during the meetings at this time is getting him heard. So I can sympathize with the previous speaker.
Thanks, Mina. What's it like in South Africa, Cheryl? You'll have to unmute yourself. I'll come back to you. Okay. Daniel, have you got something to share with us? Daniel, you also on mute. No. Right. Who has not? Clementine.
Well, I hope that you don't hear one of my work challenges. My children, my small children in the background are making a little bit of noise right now. So that's been one challenge. About working from home. There are some nice things about working from home too, but one thing that I just wanted to say is I think that our city was in a pretty good place IT-wise when this happened in March, and we're very lucky in that regard. And I think that the IT departments all over the world deserve a lot of credit for how they transitioned us all so quickly. That can't have been easy. We started out on one system for doing our council meetings remotely. We have Gmail for our email system, and so we used the Google Meet, and we used a phone conference system for taking public comments, and that worked actually pretty well for us for a long time, but people were requesting Zoom, and we've recently transitioned to Zoom, and that has had a lot of challenges, which probably everyone else dealt with those Zoom challenges long ago. For us, it's more recent, and we're still getting through some of those hiccups, but overall, it will be very nice to be back together with people in person one of these days. I hope that's soon. Thanks for including me today.
Yeah, let's hope. Thanks, Clementine. Lance, have you got anything to share with us?
Yes, I do. I agree with a lot of what others have said, in particular about some of the mental health issues that some of the staff have suffered as a result. And that what has surprised me is the vast range of response from members of staff. Some are really happy working from home, doing everything that they need to do, and would be happy never to go back to the office, and others have really struggled with the whole idea and the apprehensive element of the pandemic and what it's done to them and their lives. And so it's that sort of range that is difficult to cope with as a manager, to sort of try and make sure you're communicating in the right way to different people who've got different attitudes towards that. For the council itself, then, what we have two services which are income generating services, quite significant ones. One is our conference centre, which is also our office space. Our civic centre is the conferencing centre. And we've had to stop nearly all activities there since the end of March. And the other is a sports coaching programme that we run mainly with local schools. And again, the schools were closed for a 6-month period from the end of March through to the beginning of September. So we've lost a lot of income, but we've been able to recover most of the finances through the government support schemes that we've been able to use, and they will continue in the UK. The job support scheme, which pays 80% of staff's wages, that will continue until the end of March. So for this financial year, our financial year runs from 1st of April to the 31st of March. We actually looks as if we won't do too badly financially. We did introduce a new service when the main lockdown was on in April, May, June, which was supporting vulnerable people who were isolating at home with food deliveries and in particular prescription collections, drug collections from pharmacists, which was the one thing that a lot of people required us to provide to them, which is something we'd never obviously done before. In terms of the meetings, we've been using MS Teams as our main system, which I find better than Zoom, but that's probably because I'm more used to it now. Particularly for a council meeting where you can actually just have the councillors on view, and we've had lots of interest from members of the public, more than we ever had with meetings in the building. Sometimes it's difficult just to manage who's on the screen and who's contributing, but our chairs are getting used to that after 6 months of doing it, and things are settling down.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Lance. Anne, have you got something to share with us?
We have not closed down at all. We have been full staffed through this whole process. We've administered 3 elections, and we're blessed enough to have to do a presidential recount election. So our staff is up and running. We, of course, have in place mask wearing, social distancing. Our council has met in person, socially distanced. We reconfigured our council chambers. Our biggest challenges have been getting staff on board with doing virtual meetings and using Zoom or GoToMyMeeting. There's been a lot of resistance with our engineering department who would oversee that. So our meetings have been a challenge. And the council has then said, we're just going to social distance, meet in person because the technology is an issue. The other big thing we've had is a lot of post-traumatic stress issues with employees who've had COVID and potentially exposed other employees. We've closed down departments because people were that uncomfortable that, you know, a police officer in another building had it and I was exposed for 3 minutes. So that has been a challenge. We have state funding that you can, you know, the family home and family first. So we've had people off and getting paid to do nothing, but not be in the building. We have been working on a grant to get that refunded, but so those are some of the challenges. And a lot of it is just people's fear of what will happen if I get COVID or, heaven forbid, expose an at-risk family member. So we're working kind of more on the mental health issues of it than anything.
Interesting. Thanks, Anne. Did I see a hand wave? Oh, Sharon.
Okay, so being from a smaller community, my experience is just a little bit different. We're more on an individual basis as how COVID is affecting us individually. Our town board did not close our office. We currently do not have a COVID plan. I prepared one and provided it to the board, but it's not been adopted. I was able to close my part of the building after our court closed and had an employee out for 2 months. We were to cut our staff in half. She worked from home. Our town board meetings were only 6 minutes long because they were done by phone, which was awesome. We are now back to meeting at the town hall. Our New York State Town Clerks Association has, within the last month, provided education that everyone can call into, which is really nice. We have additional costs for cleaners. We have not done Zoom for any of our meetings. And we, because I closed our part of the office down, we still did not close to the public completely. We had an area that we would be able to do notaries and those kinds of things. So the entire building really only closed for one day in May. We are all back working and just being very cautious as individuals.
Thank you. Thanks. Daniel, are you there? You haven't got the video on, but if you could unmute yourself. There you go. What can you share with us? Daniel, can you hear me? Just gone back into mute. No. Right. And Sherelle has disappeared. I think she's having a few problems. Anybody else want to add anything at this stage or ask a question? Sherelle, are you back with us? Can you hear me? Sherelle? No. Sherelle? No. Okay. I think it's interesting hearing all the different challenges that people have had. And when we started off with these discussions, the idea was to get a group together to start sharing some of the experience. But then the group we had in October then said, well, we'd actually like to get together in smaller groups and to look at some of these challenges in more detail. And that's going to be one of the questions that I'm going to ask you, is whether you would like to get together again in a week or so and then go into breakout rooms to look at some of the challenges in more detail. Social isolation is something that comes up quite frequently. And the challenge is, how do you deal with that? Not only as far as yourself is concerned, but perhaps also your members. Some of them might be affected by that as well, because they can't get out to meet with their constituents, and it's how you deal with that. One of the other things that's come up is the challenge of deciding, when does your day start and when does it end? When you've got your office set up in your house, whether it's in the kitchen or wherever it is, can you ever escape from that? Or are you inclined to go and have a quick look, and I'll just have another look at the email, or perhaps you get phone calls because you haven't switched your mobile off. And so your day, instead of being either 7.5, becomes an 8, 9, or 10-hour day because you just never switch off. And how do you deal with that? Bad health habits, very easy when you're at home. Well, I'm a bit bored, shall I just pop and see what's in the fridge? Or do you sit all day? Do you never take a break and just keep on working through lunch? Have your lunch in front of the computer? Those are some of the challenges that I've heard people come up with. And it might be interesting to delve into those in a bit more detail in smaller groups. So that's something perhaps we can explore and see whether you want to do that at a future meeting. Sherelle, I see you back. You still can't contribute. Okay, no, that's not working. Daniel? Neither. Okay, they seem to be having audio problems, unfortunately. Can you recognize some of those challenges? And do you think you would like to get together in breakout rooms, say maximum of 4 or 5 of you in a smaller discussion, and have a discussion and look at some of these topics in more detail? Or, right, Marjolein.
Yes, I recognize the topics, and I would be interested to speak more in detail about the topics. But I'm also interested in something George mentioned, and that was about the hybrid meetings, because that's one thing that's also a challenge for me. How can you collect also the members of the town council who are elderly or sick? And how can you get them on board. Yeah.
Marjolein, that's very interesting that you say that. Chris and I had a discussion yesterday, and I had also a discussion with our region directors. And the topic for the next round of discussions, which will probably be in January, in February, early February, will be about the challenges around hybrid meetings. How do you connect people, half of them on Zoom and the other half wanting to physically attend a meeting? And how do you integrate that? Because that brings challenges of its own. Chris can tell you they've just had the IIMC mid-year meeting, which for the first time was a hybrid meeting. And Chris, perhaps you might just want to say something around that, because there are certainly some challenges around that that people will face or are already facing.
Yes, good point. We had, out of 26 board members, 11 showed up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the conference will be next May for the mid-year meeting. The other 15 Zoomed in. And in talking to the ones who Zoomed in, some of the things that they miss is, especially in a board meeting, not being in the same room with everybody else, because you miss out on the conversation before the meeting, during a breakfast, lunch, and after the meeting, especially regarding agenda items. So as an information-only piece, the hybrid works. If you are just sitting back, listening to someone, that works. Where it starts to get a little bit difficult is the interaction, because it's not as strong as, of course, as when you're in person. So if we were going to do a conference, and it was going to be a virtual conference, it would just be that, strictly people tuning in as you would today, and then having the speaker engage with you, as opposed to doing some kind of a hybrid where the speaker is live in a room and you're watching that. I mean, it might work for a very small group and it might work for a couple of hours, but to have an all-day board meeting such as we did, I thought our president did an excellent job of coordinating both ends, the technical and the in-person, but you can tell there's a lot that's lost with that. I mean, it's probably a positive step just because of the environment right now. I can't actually see that being sustainable in the future, only because of what everybody here has said. Not only do you miss the smells and the touch and seeing people, but you certainly miss any kind of contact, nuanced or otherwise, that you could gauge from speaking to people. So I would say it was a successful meeting, only because people wanted to, at least those that wanted to meet in person did. The hotel was very accommodating. There were no issues with, we all wore masks, social distancing. All our meals were pre-ordered so that we wouldn't have to be waiting in line and doing that. But yeah, there are some things that are negative about it, and but for what we did, it worked. But as I said, I don't see that being hybrids being long term. You're either going to do something like this full time, or you're going to meet in person. But to half and half just doesn't seem to convey as much as people thought that it would. And I want to add one thing. Sometime in September, I had a session with a wellness therapist for staff. All the things that you've mentioned about working remotely, some of the feelings that you've experienced, whether it's anxiety, whether it's survivor's guilt, for lack of a better word. I had her come in and she did a PowerPoint presentation for about an hour. And some of the highlights were, she put that in the PowerPoint. I can send that to Tom if you're interested. Tom, you can send it out to them. There's some bullet points in there that I think are really valuable about what you're experiencing, what you're going through. And I've not heard of anybody who has not shut down. I don't know if that's statewide in Wisconsin or just your city, but staff is staggered. Half the time they're working from home, and then we have a schedule as to who comes in the office. I'm in every day. And as Tom mentioned, I have a lot of staff members who are looking at emails on Sunday, which they're not supposed to. Some of them are going to the refrigerator a little bit too much, which I should know about. So it's there are certainly some things that have been brought up. The positive is that we might be able to do something like this if somebody wanted to move or retire and still be involved with IMC. I think this has told us that it's doable. But I think everybody wants to be in the office. You miss out on the creative process, you miss out on brainstorming. And Tom, I think you asked me one question, I've answered 20, so thank you. I'll send that presentation to Tom and he'll distribute it to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, I'll definitely send it round. Sherelle, are you back online? Can you? No. Okay. No, that's still not working. Sorry. Is there anybody else that would like to make a contribution at this stage? What I'm going to do, and I'm just looking at the time, we're close to 50 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'll send round an email to you with a survey and ask you whether you would like to get together as a group in smaller breakout rooms and perhaps the sort of topics you want to look at. As I said, it could be something around social isolation. It could be about how do you manage your staff when they're working from home? How do you ensure their well-being? What about members and social isolation of members? Or perhaps you want to start delving into the hybrid meeting challenges, if entirely up to you. We are going to have a session in, as I said, in January, beginning February, which will focus specifically on the challenges of hybrid meetings. I think Chris is right. Everybody would like to meet in person all the time. It might not happen for 6 months or even a year. Who knows how quickly with the rollout of vaccines. I'm very pleased to say that the first vaccine has been approved here in the UK, which they hope is going to be distributed next week, which is fantastic news. But rolling it out is a major challenge. It's not going to happen overnight, even though we'd like to see it happen more quickly. So I can't see this coming to an end for at least another 6 months or 9 months, who knows. But at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which is hopefully not the train. We'll have to wait and see. Any other contributions at this stage, or are you okay? There you go, Clementine.
Just a quick comment that there is one silver lining, or probably many silver linings to this, but one is I think it's really nice we can all get together internationally. I've never had the budget to be able to go to the international conference, and this is so nice to meet people from all over the world who all do the same kind of work. So thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure, Clementine. And that was the whole purpose of what we're trying to do, is to say to people, you're not living in isolation. You're not facing challenges unique to yourself. Doesn't matter whether you're in the Netherlands or South Africa or wherever. We all face very similar challenges, but the learning bit lies in how we deal with those challenges. Some people might deal with it differently, and therein lies the learning experience. So I'm very pleased if you've enjoyed the session. As I said, I will send around Chris's presentation to you. Have a look at that. I'll also send you a survey, and I'll ask the question, who wants to meet again in smaller groups, and do you have any suggestions for topics? Chris, did I see your hand or not? No. Chris says no. Anybody else? If not, then thank you very much for joining us. Sherelle, sorry we couldn't hear you and hear what's going on in South Africa. Perhaps next time round we'll be able to sort that out. But thank you, everyone. Thanks for participating, and have a lovely evening, and we hope we see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.